Hi, I'm Jim Lee, co-publisher at DC Entertainment. Thanks for joining us as we celebrate the legacy of Neil Gaiman's The Sandman by looking back at how the series changed the comic book industry forever. In December of 1988, DC Comics released the first issue of The Sandman. Neil Gaiman's spellbinding story of the Lord of Dreams would captivate readers worldwide as it unfolded over the next 8 years. The saga begins in 1916, when a group of occultists attempt to conjure and trap death. They are disappointed, however, when they capture what appears to be a tall, thin, pale-skinned man instead. Not Death, but Dream, sometimes known as Morpheus, the being who rules over the dreams of all things. The first story arc, illustrated by artists Sam Keith and Mike Dringenberg, told the story of how Dream regained his power by retrieving his totems, a bag of sand, a ruby, and a bone and glass helm. The growing readership was shocked and delighted by a journey that took them into gothic visions of hell, the darkness of drug addiction, and an unforgettable issue set in a 24-hour diner from which its patrons could not escape. The first Sandman signing took place in December of 1988 at Jim Hanley's Universe on Staten Island. Only a dozen people showed up. Neil expanded the Sandman's world in an ever more complex tapestry by blending literature, myth and legend in new ways and introducing memorable characters like the Corinthian, Fiddler's Green, and Lucian the Librarian, steward to the Dreaming's library of unwritten books. By the end of the first arc, Preludes and Nocturnes, we learn that Morpheus is one of the 7 siblings known as the Endless, each an anthropomorphic representation of an aspect of existence. It would take another 3 years until we encountered them all. Destiny, Death, Dream, the twins, Desire and Despair, the missing Destruction, and the youngest, the strange Delirium. The Sandman issue number 19, A Midsummer Night's Dream, illustrated by Charles Vess, made history when it won the World Fantasy Award for Best Short Story 1991, making it the first comic book to ever win an award for prose fiction. The following year, Neil did another signing tour for The Sandman, this time for Volume 4, Season of Mists, which chronicles Dream's odyssey as the ruler of hell after Lucifer quits. At one stop alone, the signing drew over 1,000 readers. And something new was happening for comic stores at the time. About half of the people reading Sandman were women. Initially, The Sandman was published under the DC Comics imprint, but its mature content was a far cry from Superman, Batman, and the Teen Titans. The popularity of The Sandman, as well as the other mature titles in the DC library, overseen and edited by Karen Berger, needed a place where experimentation and complex themes were the rule instead of the exception. As a result, the Vertigo imprint launched with a host of new, reimagined DC characters, a few creator-owned series, and the release of The Sandman number 47 in January of 1993. That same year, Neil expanded the Sandman mythos by writing the first spin-off miniseries, Death, the High Cost of Living, with art by Chris Bachalo and Mark Buckingham. A second miniseries, called Death, the Time of Your Life, was released 3 years later by the same art team. But nothing lasts forever, not even the most critically acclaimed comic of its time. Sales continued to rise, but Neil had always been clear that this was a story that would have a definitive end. The penultimate storyline of the series, The Kindly Ones, marked the beginning of the end for the Dream King, culminating with Morpheus' funeral in the 10th volume of the series, titled The Wake. This marked the final issue of the series, The Sandman number 75. In addition to Neil's remarkable story, each volume of The Sandman features a changing roster of world-class artists, including P. Craig Russell, Kelly Jones, Charles Vess, Malcolm Jones III, Brian Talbot, Jill Thompson, Mark Hempel, and Michael Zulli, to name just a few. This was a deliberate, creative decision made to help each story feel unique through the changing art styles. But one artist remained consistent from the first issue to the last: cover artist Dave McKean. Dave's innovative cover designs combine paint, photography, and typography into a physical collage unlike anything in the industry, and continually reinvented the look of Sandman, redefining what could be allowed on a comic book cover at the time. While the grand saga of Morpheus that had begun in Sandman 1 and finished in Sandman 75 was done, the story of Dream was not over. Neil still had many stories to tell, including the prose novella, The Dream Hunters, illustrated by legendary Japanese artist Yoshitaka Amano in 1999, and released as a comic book adaptation by P. Craig Russell in 2007. And Endless Nights in 2003, which featured a cavalcade of international superstar artists, with each story focusing on one of the 7 members of the Endless. In 2013, celebrating Sandman's 25th year, the Sandman Overture brought another artist to Morpheus' world, J.H. Williams III, as well as Neil's return to the universe he helped create. The bar for Sandman was raised even higher with a truly mind-blowing cast of characters. It's a story in which Morpheus literally holds the fate of the universe in his hands, and we learn that sometimes an ending is just another beginning, as the events from Sandman Overture act not just as a prequel, but they lead us directly into the first volume of the original series. The Sandman Overture sheds new light on the entire canon, allowing the seeds Neil planted 25 years ago to flourish today. Now in 2015, the imprint that the Sandman heralded is launching a staggering 12 new series from the top writers and artists in comics. Vertigo continues its tradition of breaking the boundaries of storytelling and pushing limits of both genre and medium with stories that explore the darkest corners of the human mind, reimagine ancient mythologies anew, reinvigorate the mundane, and test the mores of the times. The Sandman has been celebrated by countless fans, creators, and academics alike. It has found its way onto the syllabi of college professors around the world, and it will continue to influence and inspire many more as it has sold millions of graphic novels and has been translated into over a dozen languages. It challenges us, it enlightens us, and like all good stories, no matter how many times you've read it, each time you read it, it gives you something new.